Hey there! Alright, so this is my second stream. I'm a little nervous still, but not as bad as last time. Also, I don't think there's any audio glitches this time either, so that's a big plus. The last video, if you didn't catch it, I was going over the front part of the trip from France to Germany. Just a couple quick highlights. I landed in Paris, took off from there, landed in Paris late night. Tried to rent a car. That was a whole debacle. Actually, that was not included. I forgot to mention that. So yeah, it was a giant pain in the butt. I ended up having to find this British company that would loan me a car, but everybody needed a credit card, and I hadn't had a credit card in like 3 years at that point or something like that. So that ended up being kind of a to-do, but I ended up getting one, and that was great. So got a car rented. Left Paris the next morning after visiting the Cathedral of Notre Dame, which was the only building that I went to the whole time I was in Paris, and it burnt down like a couple months later. So that was a good one, good pick. So out of everything I could have seen, that was clearly the correct choice. So anyway, so I left Paris, drove to Normandy, which is northwest France, and stayed at an Airbnb, got dinner, and then the next day I went to go see the beach landing where the Americans invaded Normandy, France. I was checking out Omaha Beach, a couple other beachheads, went to a museum, and then left there to go to Point du Hoc, which is where Riley's Rangers basically scaled a cliff and took over a whole bunch of really secured positions. And saw the American National Cemetery in France, and actually I saw that, then I went to Point du Hoc. There we go. And then after that, went to Germany and just hoofed it all the way to Germany. So that's where the story here picks up. Oh no, I did spend some time in Germany last video. So in Germany, I was in Augsburg. I arrived, I actually had to pass out in the backseat of my car because everything closes at 9 in Europe, which I didn't know that at the time. So couldn't find a place to sleep, slept in the back of my car, and then got up like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and then just finished the drive. Went to bed around 2:30 in the morning, somewhere around there. And anyway, finally arrived in Augsburg, Germany, had some lunch, and then got dinner, and just basically explored just a little bit of the town on the front end. Went to a house party, even though I was extremely exhausted and super wiped out. But it was cool. I got to hang with a bunch of German folks, and then, yeah, see what culture's like. Front hand is pretty neat. Then the next morning, got up and actually started to, for real, tour Augsburg. And that is where this video is going to pick up. So anyway, without further ado, here we go. Just need to figure out how to get this up and going. Can you see what I'm looking at? I think so. I think that's good. Yeah, all right. So downtown Augsburg it's mostly cobblestone. So if you're used to like American cities, that was an interesting change of pace. Also, everybody walks in the streets. So sidewalks are kind of a suggestion, and I was going over a bit of that in the last video, especially near the tail end. So anyway, the city streets were super neat, and they were flanked by all these really cool mixture of like modern day contemporary German architecture with a blend of traditional style old architecture. So I really liked that. I thought it was super cool. It was kind of like this old town vibe. Like, as you can see, there's a modern day graffiti on the side of that wall. That was something I didn't really intend on capturing, but it was just a cool street. I didn't know I didn't notice the graffiti until later. But anyway, so that was neat. But yeah, everywhere you go, it looks kind of like this, and it's cool. There's a trolley system that runs through the city. I just realized that photo's not in focus, so A little blurry. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, other side note. All these photos were taken with like an iPhone 4. So if they're not the greatest quality, sorry. It's the best I got to work with what I've got at the moment. So there we go. Anyway, the building architecture is super cool. And it was raining. That's right. It was still cold and raining. Like the whole week I was in there. Not just Germany, but also in France. It was like 50, 55 degrees and pouring rain the entire time. The rain would take little breaks here and there, so I may as well have been visiting Britain, I guess. But anyway. Oh, right. So in the capital of Augsburg, there is what is called the Golden Room. And for the longest time, I always thought the movie, The Hills Are Alive, Sound of Music. So the Sound of Music, there is like the governor's mansion room, and it's this really cool gold-laden room. And I thought that was filmed in this room, but I learned later, like recently, like a couple months ago, that it is not. So that was a random fun fact that was completely worthless for you to know. But now you know it. So there we go. So moving on. Basically, the architecture the architect that did a lot of the building design in Augsburg specifically built this one particular room. And most of the room is a gigantic like mosaic. I mean, everything is lined with gold plating and the most intricate detail and artwork. It was absolutely astonishing. Also, the ceilings are humongous. There's some people for scale. I mean, this place is big, really big. I can't believe this is not like a more talked about location, because the level of artwork and artistry was absolutely exquisite. So I was trying to do my best to do like a 360, but a lot of the photos are getting washed out because the natural light coming in through the windows. Also, I was starting to get photos of just random people. I don't know how random people would feel about that. But there's a lot of like original artwork, like painting that were very, homage? Very reminiscent of the realistic era. Victorian, Renaissance, that's the word I'm shooting for. So anyway, so a lot of realism type paintings, very Victorian on the ceiling, and then a lot of realism type paintings all around the walls. And there's also like carved, I think that's carved marble. Might be mistaken. I'm a little fuzzy on that particular detail. But anyway, oh yeah, there's a better shot of that. I don't think that's carved marble. Actually, it might just be wallpaper. I just realized it's probably wallpaper. Maybe, I don't know. There's some, looks like on the left side of the photo, there's some depth in some of those etchings. Anyway, moving on. Oh yeah, big, huge doors. Really hard to open, so they wouldn't let you. Anyway, so this is the window I saw on one of the upper floors, and just got to look out at the town. And it is the most European rooftop I think I've ever seen. Also, it's the only European rooftop I've ever seen. So I guess there's that. But if you picture like what Europe would look like, traditional style Europe, this photo is what comes to my mind personally. At least the experience of what this photo captured. So anyway, there are a lot of churches all around Germany. So it's very German Catholic, strong belief system, culturally as well. I mean, if you're not familiar with European history, especially medieval history, the church and the state were kind of a big deal and heavily intertwined with one another. So it's not that surprising. There's a bunch of churches all over the place. But anyway, can everybody hear me okay? I don't know. I just realized, I don't know if the audio is any good. I know it's not doing the echoey, loopy thing it was last time. But I don't know if you can hear me okay or not. Give me a positive if you can. Otherwise, I'm just going to ramble on in silence and probably just have to reshoot this some other time if this is just a silent video. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, so this is one of the churches. It was kind of like a multicultural center as well. They had lots of different that was still in the Golden Room. There's like a miniature museum in the Golden Room that had a bunch of different cultures who had influenced Augsburg's culture over the past several hundred years. Also get a lot of visitors visiting countries who had also like left basically cultural marks. So anyway, this is one of the churches, and I don't know if I got a picture of it. Oh yeah, so super neat detail. Really highly detailed artwork. I said detailed a lot, but everything in this church was super intricate, and I was really struggling to get the flash to pick up all the like little gem bits that are inside of this thing. But anyway, all right, so I left some stuff out. The also in the church. No, was it in the church? No, it was in the Capitol, the Golden Room. Not specifically the Golden Room itself, but in that area. There was also this huge glass monument to all of the Jews that had passed during World War II that were from Augsburg. So that was kind of sobering to look at. But anyway, moving on. So I saw this statue as after having left the cathedral. One of my all-time favorite paintings ever is of Michael the Archangel casting Lucifer out of heaven and stabbing with the spear. This is a statue that is reminiscent of that, and it's actually about, I think, a king or a knight, like a knightly figure, bro dude. And I'm pretty sure that information is just underneath the statue on the plaque that I did not get a photo of. So whoops. But anyway, the photo reminded me of that painting, and I thought it was super cool, so I had to get a photo of it. This place was really neat. So this is part of original like Augsburg, Germany. The entranceway is through this tunnel. It's the only way in and out, I believe. Actually, there might be a back entrance for vehicles. But it is simultaneously both a public museum, hence the booth or the little trough thingies on the right-hand side with all the flyer whatnots all in it. And the ticket booth, I believe, is on the left. There's a doorway that's just being blocked off by a pillar. But anyway, yeah, so you can go in there and walk around through this village that is very old school. I think it was built in like the 1920s, 1930s. It's been very well preserved. So it's a museum, but it is also like an apartment complex where people currently live. So that was kind of neat. Obviously, the tenants don't have to pay admission to get in, but there are several. But you have like a little map thing that you can walk around with, a little brochure that folds onto a map. But it's got certain points on it to where it'll say, "Hey, you can go into this house and you can walk through it and explore it." They usually have a couple different TVs playing, talking about the times and the era and things that were going on in the area or in that neighborhood at that time. Obviously, there's a lot of interesting political things happening in Germany in the 1930s, 1940s. So they captured a lot of that. But this was the entryway. And, the place was super neat looking. Super cool looking. Oh, yeah, one of the museums I was going through, it was actually an underground bunker. So in one of the corners of the village, there was a trapdoor thing with a staircase that went down, and it went to a bomb shelter. And it was a bomb shelter for, I think, like the whole village. Not all of this, not the city of Augsburg, but just like this little neighborhood. But in that bunker, they had a bunch of glass cases and a whole bunch of different artifacts and whatnot. I just thought this was neat because it was a typewriter that had the Wonder Woman symbol on it. And my stepsister's super into Wonder Woman, so I took a picture of it and sent it to her because I thought she'd like that. But anyway, that's the Wonder Woman typewriter, and of everything in that bunker museum, that was the only thing I got a picture of, apparently. I really should have taken more pictures of that place because it was pretty cool. Anyway, this was the brochure, the map that I had, and I thought it'd be cool to get a picture of it side by side. So I tried really hard to line up the shot to where I could get this photo from, I think, 1944, 45. But basically, yeah, just looking at this war-torn, blown-up village, and then how it looks now. So on the left is the original, obviously, and on the right is also obviously modern day. But that was a fountain that was currently covered up because it was October at the time, and I think they uncovered the fountain in the spring and let it go all summer. But this, I don't remember what the building was. I think it was a winery or something to that effect, but it just looks so cool. Most of the buildings had different vegetation, I guess you'd say, growing up the sides of them, but this was the most prominent and prolific. So I had to get a picture of that. That was super neat. I don't remember seeing too many things like this anywhere else. I know in Tennessee there's a bunch of vines that are an invasive species. They grow up, but this is like an actual tree. So it's like a tree type thing that's using a building as, you know, stabilization for its branches. Kind of neat. This was somewhere that had water. I don't remember exactly where this was. We were just walking around and saw this canal type thing. I think I got a video of it too. Nope. This was one of the few like castle looking things that I saw, and I had to get a picture of that because castles are neat. All about castles. It's actually one of my bucket list items to sleep in a castle. I did not do that this trip, but I want to go back and do that thing. But this was pretty much the extent of the Augsburg castles, and there was a wall. Yeah, here's a wall. So this is a wall that was part of the, I think, original like 1400s or something like that, maybe fortification. Could be completely wrong. That might have been built in like 2000. I don't know. I'm just supposed to modelize it. But anyway, it just looked like it was really, really old castle wall. So I tried to do my best to get a picture of it, but unfortunately my poo-poo iPhone takes subpar photos. And it was really hard to get the camera to focus on the wall through all the vegetation. This is the clearest shot that I could get. And there's a creek thing in the bottom of the photo. And I think what I took a picture of earlier was a waterway that fed into this creek. This is a video. So this video is a little bubbling brook that was really peaceful to look at. And it had all the little bubbling water, and it was pretty cool. By the way, if you didn't catch on, the way I'm viewing all this, you can't really watch videos, which is probably okay. Because there's some music in some of them, and I don't know if it's going to get like a copyright strike or something. Anyway, so this is one of the main veins, streetwise, one of the main street veins going through the city, and there's this massive, massive cathedral. And I think the next photo, yeah, here we go. I tried my absolute darndest to get a good photo with all the details of this cathedral. Also, I think it was getting dusk right around here, and lighting was really dim, so I was having to really mess with that. So if it looks like I'm taking a picture of just a blank white screen, no, that's just whitewash. I was trying to get the video or the camera to focus on both the tower and that really cool stone architecture doorway type thing. Inside the church, there was this super cool live classical music concert going on. It was the Traveling Orchestra, I believe was the name of it. But they travel all over Europe, not just Germany. Or maybe it was just Germany. They spoke English. They spoke English, and they mentioned they travel around, so I just assumed that it was probably all of Europe. Might be wrong, I don't know. But anyway, this was the entryway as you go into, like as you first come into the cathedral. This was the entrance. If you notice, there's a great big archway on the left. That is the entrance to like the main hall. And this main hall area was where the orchestra was all set up, and that's where all the pews are, where people can actually, jam out to the music. This was behind the orchestra. So after the concert was over, I walked up and wanted to get a picture of all of these statues. I could not get good enough of a shot to A, get the detail, and B, get the volume and scope of all of them, but there was a ton of stuff, just an absolute ton of stuff in this picture. So as you can look in the bottom of the photo, that's the orchestra like setting up after the concert. I was trying not to get too many people in the shot, but still catch the really cool detail here. Later, okay, so afterwards, I went back to that museum that I was at earlier, that neighborhood museum type thing, and set up at, right next to it there was a tapas. That's right, there was a tapas restaurant. The best food I had the whole time I was in Germany was at this tapas restaurant, and it was basically Germany's take on the French version of Spanish food. food. So, like nothing authentic in any of this meal. That is a stein of German beer, though. So I did have some more German beer, some German bread, and the rest of it was, yeah, basically France's version of Spanish food in Germany. I think this is also pumpkin soup. So the previous night in the last video I showed a picture of it, but I ate some pumpkin soup. It was very okay-ish. This was a better version of it, and I liked this a bit more. Pretty sure that's a steak. I don't quite remember what it is. It was pretty good. I remember that. I remember liking it, but can't tell you much of anything about it. But that was that. Oh, so I was in Germany and got some creme brulee, which is French. I was in France and never ate creme brulee. And I was in Germany and never ate German chocolate or German chocolate cake. And I'm super disappointed in myself for flubbing on both of those things. Definitely opportunity missed. Definitely want to go back and actually have real creme brulee in France, because that would probably be pretty great. Okay, so the next morning, got up, I hit the road, and before I left, checked off another bucket list item, which was to have a Bavarian donut in Bavaria, Germany. I didn't realize Bavaria was in Germany, but Bavaria is the southern region within Germany. Just fun fact. So a Bavarian donut in Germany, or in Bavaria, is just a jelly donut, which I didn't realize, and I was hugely disappointed by, because I wanted like the custard cream-filled one. They didn't have that. So anyway, so I ate this, and it was kind of stale, even at like, I think this was 7 o'clock in the morning. Had a stale donut at 7 a.m. Bit of a letdown, but I got to do the bucket list item, and I had it, and there it is. So this was my breakfast, and then I hit the road, and got hit with a snow barrage. So just out of the blue, just started dumping snow like constantly, and it only lasted for like 20 minutes. And then it was fine. Like the whole rest of the trip, no snow. It just snowed really hard, very suddenly, all at once, just in this one particular front end strip. So the other, I don't think I got, pretty certain I did not get a photo of it. Yeah, okay, I did not. So also, this was massive traffic backlog. So that's not a good way to say that. When I was first on the strip of interstate, it was a 5-lane road. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lanes on this side, and then 5 lanes on the other side. It choked down to a 4-lane, a 3-lane, and then a 2-lane road in about, I think, 5 to 6 miles. So not a super long stretch of real estate. But traffic flowed perfectly smooth the entire time. It got a little bogged down, but mostly it was smooth sailing, and this is why I cannot advocate enough in the zipper method. So if you're not familiar with the zipper, all right, soapbox time. I'm gonna get on my soapbox real quick. So in Europe, actually we have this in America too, it's just nobody does it. So in America, if a lane closes, everybody gets over immediately, and then people that zip to the front where the lane closure is first happening, everybody looks down on that person, and some people even get in the lane closure, or the lane that's going to be closed. They'll get in that lane and sit there and drive slowly. All that does is backs up the traffic even more. It stretches out the traffic accident, and it stops people from moving. Because also, people that try to merge last minute usually get blocked out by people like, no, I waited this whole time. You can't get in. However, in Europe, they do the zipper method where one car will go, the other car will come in, the next car will go, the other car will come in. And what happens is traffic continues to move the entire time. Also, because the traffic choke point happens only at the lane closure portion of the road, you don't stretch out the traffic jam either. I was able to drive, I think it was like 6 or 8 miles that went from 5 lanes down to 2 lanes. I was able to get to that entire stretch of road in like 15 minutes. So yeah, the traffic slowed down, but it was nowhere near like you would expect in America. Also, one thing I noticed was interesting. Seems like really obvious and common sense when you think about it. But here in America, driving around, you'll see a lot of Lexuses. Like that's the nice fancy luxury car. Here in this particular stretch of road, I was seeing Porsches everywhere. So as frequently as you would see a Lexus, I saw that frequency of Porsches. That's pretty cool. Kind of wanted to rent a Porsche, but I was going on a major budget for this trip. Actually, this whole trip, I think I was all in grand total like $4,000 for the whole week, all of my flight, all of my food, like everything. So, side note, you don't have to spend a ton of money if you want to do international travel. So, if you budget and plan ahead, you can do this kind of stuff for reasonably cheap. So, anyway, this is another picture of the Black Forest. I was cutting through the heart of the Black Forest. I was expecting like Mirkwood Forest or Lothlorien, something like that. This epic fantasy. No, it's Kentucky, Tennessee, just Appalachia. So the forest is basically just like just a regular Appalachian forest. If you've been in any of the Appalachian states, you've seen the Black Forest. So kind of a letdown, not gonna lie. But anyway, so I got a photo of that. I think this is the second photo. Yeah, on the last stream I had another photo of it. But anyway, this is my obligatory Black Forest photo. I was going to stop somewhere and like, oh, really check it out. But it's like, yeah, this is my normal trip from Indiana to Tennessee. So this is nothing special or unique. Okay, I do have to say this. Oh, perfect. I got a good photo of it. So the one major difference between, driving through Tennessee or driving through Kentucky, the topography looks exactly the same, except you'll see all these like tiny little super European looking houses. So like super traditional architecture, super traditional type materials, like building materials. And that was really cool. Like if you're cutting through the mountains of Tennessee, you'll see this one like random shack made out of basically stamped sheet metal and some plywood and whatnot. You think I'm exaggerating. If you live in Tennessee, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen these like shacks on the side of the mountain. So you'll see that kind of thing, but it'll be like this super like boutique little shack with like clay roof and like perfectly manicured walls. And it just looks like a little snippet of artwork that somebody just like placed into the side of a mountain. And you'd see those like dotted around. So that was a pretty key difference between Appalachia and Black Forest type region, southern Germany region. But yeah, so I just kept seeing all these really cool like little villages while I was driving by. And it drove me up the wall because it's trying to like take pictures while I'm driving, which is super dangerous. Don't do that. Keep your eye on the road, especially if you're driving a manual, which I was. But anyway, I just like did my best to like lean over, take a picture with my little iPhone and not get too much of like the window frame. This was like the best photo out of all the ones they had taken because most of it was like the bottom of the door and all kinds of stuff. So this is my best shot that actually had something interesting to look at and it wasn't just a picture of the car interior. So anyway. Oh yes, okay, so traveled through Luxembourg, which I've heard of Luxembourg. I thought it was a city, but it's a city and it is a country. So technically I traveled to France, Germany, and Luxembourg. 3 countries on this trip. And it was hindsight, I didn't realize it. Also, I traveled through Belgium. Belgium? Is that right? I think so. I believe I traveled through Belgium as well. So this is me cutting diagonally across France and Germany, but this time I'm taking a steeper angle going north instead of long way across. I'm going diagonally up because I'm heading towards the northeast corner of France. 2 or 3 days prior, I left from the northwest. Normandy is northwest France, which is southeast Germany, which is Augsburg, and then I headed up to northeast France, and I was heading towards Soissons. So, Luxembourg. It's if you've ever driven through like downtown Cincinnati, fairly comparable. So, I mean, yeah, the buildings look a little bit different, but yeah, it's Cincinnati. By the way, if this video ever goes out and someone from Luxembourg watches this, that is not an offense. Luxembourg was a super cool place. I never got to stop and check it out. It's a neat city, but Cincinnati is not a bumhole. It's actually a pretty cool town, even though it is located in Ohio. Also, not a jab at Ohio beeps, but you live in Ohio, so you understand. Anyway, so stopped in Soissons. I was super dead tired. I've been driving for like 14 hours, and went to stopped on my Airbnb first, and oh, actually, I think I got a picture of that too. Hang on. Yeah, here we go. This is my Airbnb the next morning. So that's my Airbnb. Just behind it, that's a cathedral. The Airbnb itself is actually quite small. I spent $35 on this Airbnb, and it was a super neat little place. I spent virtually zero time in it. I basically showed up, dropped off my laptop bag, because that's the only thing I was traveling with, and got my Airbnb key, which is this guy. Met with the owner of the building, and he was super nice. He came out, he met me at the Airbnb to drop off the key, and also just to kind of give me the lay of the land of Soissons, what it's like. Super nice guy, super nice guy. He kept apologizing for his English, but he spoke great English. So I've noticed that as well. Like my previous Airbnb hostess in Normandy, she kept apologizing for her English, but she learned English through watching American movies. She might have watched BBC stuff as well. English speaking movies. So my interaction with her was like one of the first times she'd ever spoken English with anybody, which I thought was super impressive. So I was like, no, you're doing amazingly well. Like mon français est meilleur or something like that. I don't remember what I said. But anyway, this place is super cool. He spoke really good English, and I was super happy with it. I left him like a really great like raving review on Airbnb. But super cool place. But he told me, so he took me to the town square, which was really small, and then pointed out like each of the different places to go and eat. And at this point, I think it was like 8 o'clock at night, and everything was closed except for one restaurant. And that's where I went to eat. And it was actually one of the fancier, bougie restaurants. But I had this cream cheese. So that thing that looks like white chocolate is actually just cheese with a bunch of pepper flakes in it. And they gave me like a little side of mixed nuts as an appetizer to go with my wine. So I ordered a bottle of, was it a bottle? Yeah, clearly there's a bottle sitting on the table next to me. I obviously ordered a bottle. Oh, that's right. I think they have small bottles. So most bottles of wine is worth 4 glasses. I think this bottle of wine was 2 glasses. So that was the difference. Anyway, so he got me the bottle of wine and the nuts and the bread to go with it. So it's not just a bottle of wine that you get, which I thought was interesting. The name of the restaurant is La Cathedral. That was the name of it because the coolest part of Soissons is this really cool cathedral that was in it. So anyway, so this is my little appetizer thingy-dingy that I had. And then I got some kind of beef stew. No, it was lamb stew. So I got lamb. So it's beef stew made with lamb or sheep or something like that. Sheep is lamb. Way to go, Dodio. And also the salad had some kind of sauce on it. Oh, and I already ate something, whatever that green smear is. I was like, oh crap, I never took a photo of this. I should probably like take a picture to remember this occasion. And I got this little un petit bag of frites, a little basket of fries, and they were nasty. Like that was, except for the stale Royale with cheese I had a couple days prior, the fries were the second grossest thing I ate in France. You'd think the French would have mastered the French fries, but no, they're bad at it. And this was the bottle that I had. So, un petit bottle, it was very good. C'est bon. Back to Airbnb. All right, so that's the cathedral that was behind my Airbnb photo. So in the background, on the right-hand side, boom, that's the cathedral wall. So I did not have to walk far. This is actually the back side of the cathedral. The front side, pretty sure I got a photo of it, but I don't remember. Anyway, they had all these flying buttresses. For some reason, my 6th or 7th grade sociology class had us do this huge section on flying buttresses. And that is one of the random bits of information that I happen to remember is Gothic architecture and flying buttresses. Or Rachmaninoff was in the... Oh, what era was that? Baroque. It's called the Baroque era. So one of the few things I remembered from my middle school history class was during the Baroque era, they had a bunch of flying buttresses. This is a building with a bunch of flying buttresses. So whatever dates are in the Baroque era, That's when this cathedral was built. Just, if you didn't piece that together. Also, in the bottom right-hand side, there's the door leading into the cathedral, and that's a person standing in front of this door. So it's kind of big. Oh yeah, another person. So they had a door within a door, and a couple other little side doors dotted around the building. Also, it is pouring rain, and everything is closed. At this point, I think it's like 10 a.m. So this is the next morning. Sorry. So this is the next morning. I don't think I had breakfast. I did not have breakfast. I remember that. Oh, my Airbnb had a super tiny shower and a lumpy bed. Random tidbits to remember, but there we go. But it was only $35, so I didn't mind. Anyway, so it was raining. It was not as cold as when I was in Normandy. It was only like, I think it was like 65. But still like not hot rain. But anyway, so I was walking around looking for stuff to do, but everything's closed. It's 10 a.m. and everything's closed. So I found out that everything opened at, I think like 11, or no, 2. It was 2 p.m. I wanted to go see a museum really bad, and they didn't open until 2. And then they closed at like 6 or 5. They opened at 2 and closed at 5 or 6, along with everything in this region of France. Everything in this region of France closed at 5 o'clock, and they didn't open until 2. It's like, how do you conduct business? Like, how do you earn like rent to live? Like, how do you have money to live if you guys are never open? So anyway, this is inside the cathedral. So this is a femur of a saint, if I could read, Crispin, I think is the name of the saint. But anyway, yeah, so this is the femur of a saint. Apparently that's a thing that they do in cathedrals, is they will have a relic, and a relic, I don't know, I'm doing air quotes, it's what it's called. It's a relic. But it's usually some like severed body part of a saint or someone really important to the church. This case is a femur. So anyway, this is inside, and I was really struggling to get adequate photos of how elegant and exquisite this cathedral is. So there are several different, well, I can't say several, there's like 4 different congregation areas. So there could be like 4 sermons going at the same time, or 4 different masses. Multiple Catholic church services, there we go, going at the same time. I think there's about 4, there's 3 or 4. But this was the main section, like the front and center. On the exterior wall, this is where all the flying buttresses were hanging out at. So this is the interior version of that other photo. And I never got a picture of the front. Stupid me. But then I left and started walking around. Oh, I think I got a rosary from my mom. Yeah, I bought a rosary. It was this little red rosary that the monks had made in this cathedral. Super cool. So I got that for her. This is the street life. So, street life in Soissons. So Soissons, I think, was probably my favorite portion of the whole trip. How much should I share? Basically, the whole town, the whole city is the most well-preserved, like old historic, like medieval French area, district, whatever, in all of like northern France, northeast France. So World War I rolled through and destroyed most of their architecture, and then World War II rolled through and destroyed the other most of their architecture. So Soissons is like one of the few standing like medieval type villages, and that's actually why I picked it. So I was looking for medieval villages to see in France. This came up, so that's why I wanted to check it out. I was also looking for castles. One of my biggest goals, actually, it's not necessarily a bucket list item to have visited a castle, but it was like my top priority. No, it is definitely a bucket list item to visit a castle. At some point in my life, I wanted to visit a castle. That is clearly a bucket list item. So yeah, so one of my primary goals this whole trip was to see castles, and Soissons was sandwiched in between 2 of them. But these are the streets, and you'd have these old medieval style buildings with a little sprinkling of modern buildings, which had a kind of a medieval flair to it. So it was like a hybrid, and that was super neat. The town itself was, it's like a small city, big town. Probably a little bit smaller than downtown Indianapolis, but not much. And I got to walk most of it because I had to wait till 2 o'clock for the museum to open. So I just took a tour, sort of walked around the whole place. That little thing is spiky bits stabbing the sky behind that one house is a really cool used to be cathedral, and you'll see what I mean here in a second. At the base of the used to be cathedral, they have all these ancient like artifacts, things that used to be buried in the region. So like these date back to like ancient Greeks. No, that's not right. If I I don't remember when. This particular section did not. There are other portions that did date back to like the ancient Greek era. This particular set of pottery just is not one of those. But if you can see in the reflection of the plexiglass behind me, on the concrete wall, that has a timeline of all the different stuff that they found in the area. And this is a museum that is dedicated to that. Not the church. No. Two museums. I saw two museums. There's one museum of like super old Soissons, and then there's another museum which was by the cathedral. I went and saw that too. This, I think, is the cathedral. Oh yeah, not Greek, Roman. So this is the Roman era. So I believe Rome occupied a portion of France, at least this region, for a little while. And if my French weren't doo-doo, I could do a better job of like relaying cool, useful information to you. I cannot. So moving on. So this is what's left of a giant cathedral. It survived World War I, which is shocking because 90% of Soissons was burnt down during World War I. Actually, fun fact, Soissons was one of the largest cities in all of France prior to World War I. It actually rivaled that of Paris. It was not bigger than Paris, but it was like the other big city. It'd be like the equivalent of like Paris would be like New York City. Soissons would be like Chicago. Except Chicago rebuilt after their fire, and Soissons did not rebuild much. It's still pretty small. Anyway, so this cathedral survived World War I, it survived World War II, and it was mostly destroyed by vandalism. Vandalism is what took out this cathedral several years later, and that is very sad. It's very sad. But this is like straight up like medieval, like this is where your horses hang out. And that's like a spot where you joust or something. I'm making that up. I don't think that's actually true or accurate. But it looks like something that would be there. But this is the interior court of the monastery. This is where the monks would like hang out. Well, used to hang out back when it was a structure, an entire structure. This is a section of the cathedral that was actually preserved. And this was like a bafflingly good photo, and I'm kind of impressed with my little iPhone right now. But this looks like it should be like a professional photograph that somebody would have as wallpaper. Just saying. Now, it could be just tooting my own horn, and it's actually a garbage photo. So you tell me. Good photo, not good photo. I want to see some chatter. So this is, all right, so the cathedral also had a couple different state houses around it. Basically, they would manage the property. They did a doo-doo job of it since they let it get vandalized to death somewhat recently-ish, but super low-key, laid back. I walked in, just started walking around. They're like, hey, if you want to pay your museum admittance fee, like that'd be neat. Like, I think it was like €2 or something like that. So like $1, it was like $2.20 or $2.30, something like that. Equivalency, but yeah, just super low key, super chill. And I definitely went to upstairs to the staffing area where they clearly were storing all of their like office supplies. I was probably not supposed to be in this area, but clearly nobody cared that I was, so I just hung out. But this is like a weird 3-way intersection, triple hallway. This is the third floor, and the staircase going up went to the attic. Staircase to the left went to all of their bookkeeping, where they kept tubs of like important paperwork. The stairwell that I'm leaving, like sticking out of, was like their office, like their clerical offices. So I had to go like downstairs for a mini museum, and then the base floor was like their main entranceway area. This is not inside the cathedral. This is inside the property house, or the like the management house. This building right here on the left. I went inside that one. Oh, and there's like nobody around anywhere. I basically had the whole village all to myself to just walk around and hang out. And this is on like a Monday. Pretty sure this is Monday. Yes, this is definitely Monday. So anyway, the basement of the cathedral had all these like super cool paintings. There's an artist that did like a dedicated piece to this particular cathedral. And yeah, just posted up all their paintings. So this became like his personal private gallery, I assume. I don't know actual the details behind it, but there was no one to tell me. So I just kind of figured that was the case because it's all the same art style. So I was walking around all these different like winding hallways and twisting areas, and found this one area that went off to the side, went up to like a tight little landing, and it had this one window. It was just a hole inside of the wall that was super tiny. And I looked at the hole in the wall and saw this, and it was really cool. I really like this photo. It's also one of my absolute favorites. I didn't get the weird photo. This is, okay, so the other museum, so I left that area, went to another museum to actually check out like, hey, what's some of the historical stuff going on with Soissons? And a lot of the stuff that I told you, I learned from here. Right, they were closed still. So I went to the local cafe to get un chocolat, just chocolate milk. That's all this is, or hot chocolate. So this is hot chocolate. This little rolled up chocolate ball thing on the right, that was just part of my hot chocolate, and it was awesome. Legitimately one of the best chocolates I've ever eaten in my life. Also, I've never I'd never gotten to before. I speak gooder English. I've never gotten cubed sugar before. I don't remember if I put it in the hot chocolate because I don't know if it needed it. Oh, I think it was fairly unsweet. So I think I did put the sugar in there. It's fairly unsweetened hot chocolate. But anyway, had that. Oh yeah, and I kept trying to order ratatouille because I was like, hey, I'm going to get something to eat while I'm here. And I didn't understand anything on the menu. It was too complicated. Did I actually eat anything? I did. So I think this was their version of pumpkin soup. I think I had pumpkin soup 3 times. But they also like decorated the plate and made it all super fanciful and whatnot. I wanted ratatouille, and nobody in Soissons speaks any English. Like nobody. The only way I was able to order any food the night before is because I was trying to talk to the waiter, butchering French badly. I was badly butchering French and English too, apparently. But anyway, I was trying to tell him my order, and I think the manager was trying to leave, overheard me struggling really bad, and stepped in and helped me order my food. So that was super cool. These people spoke no English, so I just picked something on the menu, and I think it happened to be pumpkin soup again. Their pumpkin soup was way better than German pumpkin soup because it actually had like spices and seasonings and whatnot, and it was really good. This was really, really good soup. But yeah, I kept trying to order ratatouille, and it was like, je voudrais ratatouille, and she's like, "Qu'est?" Which is also French for what? It's Spanish and French. But it's like, je voudrais ratatouille, and he's like, I don't understand your accent. I was like, do you have ratatouille? Like, just super, super Tennessee English. And he was like, oh, ratatouille. Like, yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, no, we do not have to have that. We do not have that. And she got like borderline like, can't believe you'd ask me that. Tourist. But anyway, so I got this instead. Random. I just picked something like, I'm going to have that. I'm going to have that thing. And this is what I wound up with. It was good. Oh! I believe this is the front of the church. Maybe it did? No. No. So the town square has another church on the opposite corner, and this is the church that was on the opposite corner, and it is super small. Just off camera to the left, there are a bunch of people that looked borderline homeless smoking cigarettes. And I walked past them, and I'm pretty sure they were trying to bum money off of me in French. And I was like, I'm sorry, no speak-a-zee French, nine, which is German for no. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. So I was trying to speak French the whole time I was in Normandy in Paris. And then I went to Germany, and I was trying to speak French to the Germans, and I was getting frustrated. But I kept forcing myself to try to like speak German, and then I got to Soissons, and I kept trying to speak German to all the French people. It's like they had a pretty big row a couple times to make sure that they did not speak German in this area. So I kind of felt bad about that. But yeah, it's one of those things like my brain just had this like multi-day delay on trying to switch to the languages. That was kind of embarrassing. Anyway, this is kind of neat church. I didn't get to go inside of it. It was all boarded, or not boarded. It was sealed up because it's a Monday. And on the other side of it, so the little peak on top of the bush to the right, that's the back of the church. But this is a memorial to all of the townspeople that died during World War I in the region. So World War I destroyed, I think I said this, destroyed some like 90% of the city, if I remember the statistic correctly, from the tour guides that I randomly bumped into. And during this particular section, there's, I think it's called the, I keep wanting to say Burning Man, or the One Man Torch, or the Burning Torch Parade, or something. Shoot, I'm trying to remember. But it's this big parade that goes across, I think it goes like a really long ways out. I don't remember if it's quite as far as Paris, but it's a parade that goes across like northern France. And it's several miles long. Don't remember specifically how long, but the parade ends at the town square of Soissons. And this memorial is right by the town square. So actually on the other side of that memorial wall is the town square, and I'm pretty confident I never got a picture of it, and that's kind of a bummer. I guess I was a lot more frugal with what pictures I took. Yeah, this would be like a cool town square, but this is not even town square. This is just like another one of the really neat sections. You can kind of see there's like this square-shaped column in the background. That's that busted up cathedral, and it makes its way into a lot of these photos because it's really big. It's definitely the biggest building in Soissons. That I can remember, that I recall, and that I remember. If someone from Soissons watching, they're like, "No, you are an idiot. It is not the biggest building." Yeah, right, I'm sorry. Screwed that up. My bad. But anyway, more city streets views. Oh yeah, I got super lost. So I crossed this bridge, trying to find something I was trying to get to. I wound up getting a map of Soissons, and got super duper lost. And I found this bridge, and I was like so happy. It's like, yes, I can find my way again. And I took a picture of it in celebration. And this is me trying to get unlost. So yeah, took a big tour, not entirely on purpose, of the city. This, I think, is some guy's house. No, is this an embassy? This might be, either it's a hotel, it's a guy's house, or it's an embassy, and I don't remember. I remember looking at a plaque, and it said which it was, but I don't recall. Anyway, right, got to the museum, and I was still waiting. So this is the entrance to get into the museum. So I think it's an old, actually I don't have to think, I can look. It's clearly an old cathedral. So it's an old abandoned cathedral that was converted into a museum. And these are some of the tour guides that I found. So super lost, getting drenched, super soaked, and lost as all get out. And found these ladies that all spoke French. One of them, the lady on the left, she is a tour guide, and the other two were being trained by her on how to be tour guides for France. So I got like a little mini tour of Soissons for free, because I bumped into them, and they were just super cool and like took me under their wing. Actually, one of them like shared their umbrella with me, and I was super appreciative. So They asked me about America. I asked them about Soissons, and it was a really cool time. So we finally got into, that busted up cathedral. So this is actually in the first floor of that busted up cathedral, and they were headed off to go hang out here to do their tourist guide training stuff, and left me with some maps and some really good information. And it was super cool. I was really, really thankful to meet them. Really made the trip really that much cooler. So this is a street view. So I'm heading back. So I left the busted cathedral, and the square box is the intact cathedral that has the flying buttresses near the town center. Derp. I should have known that. So anyway, so that's the building in the background that has photobombed. That tower has photobombed a couple other previous pictures. But anyway, so this is leaving Busted Cathedral, heading back to Town Square, taking a slightly different route. And then this is inside the museum. I'm pretty sure. Probably. Pretty sure I made it into the museum by this point. Like the official, like the big museum. Yeah, this is totally it. So they had a bunch of like little models, miniatures all over the place of what Soissons used to look like, several days before I got there. Like a long time before I got there. At least a week. But anyway, they had, I think a art festival had just happened like a week or two prior. I'm trying to remember. I think that's what happened. But they had a bunch of, it was basically like an art gallery up underneath the awning type area. And all these different local artists had all their paintings posted. And it was super cool. So this cathedral, so the abandoned cathedral is part of the museum, like I mentioned before. They had not the busted cathedral, the abandoned cathedral that was converted into a big museum. That's this one. So this is a section of it. And the archaeologists that work here, this is basically their storage site. So they're recovering different different ruins. They're recovering different ruins and setting them up all over the place. By all over the place, I mean like they just had like literal heaps with little stickers on just all these like busted up blocks. So this is part of that area. They had, so the door on the left was the entrance, went down into like the subterranean type area, and there's another staircase that went down into an even deeper portion. I don't remember if I got a photo of that or not. Definitely didn't. So the deeper portion, it was, I want to think it had dirt floors, and it was basically like a cellar, and they had just, you're going down this hallway, and they had sections off to the side where all these like rubble, these ruins were just set aside, and I think they're trying to restore the cathedral. I didn't get a chance to ask anybody, and I don't remember what the brochures that I had said, the ones that were in English. So I don't quite remember the specifics behind it, but I'm pretty sure they're collecting the ruins and trying to eventually restore the area with the original pieces. But there's art gallery underneath. So this is super cool. This is actually just a bunch of squiggly wires. And it was just, so that's a fenced off area. Okay, so in the subterranean area, there was a hallway that went on, and then it curved around and hooked back. And there's just this little like miniature hallway segment with an archway next to it and light beaming in. So I had to figure out like, hey, what's this? So went in, and it was roped off, but there's this statue of just a whole bunch of wire that was weird, didn't make any sense. It just, just a bunch of wire. So I walked up and got a better angle of it. It's like, holy smokes, that's a dude's face. That's so cool. I think that's the artist. It might be Van Gogh. Don't remember. So this might be an artist's contribution to Van Gogh, maybe, don't remember. Anyway, super cool piece of artwork. Had to get a picture of it. So I didn't get any more photos of the museum, apparently. It is a really cool museum. It's like 4 stories, and I had to rush through it because it was 3 o'clock at the time, and I had 3 hours to get to 2 different castles that were 20 minutes one way, and then an hour to get from that one to the other one. So I was rushing out of the museum, just take a couple more snapshots before I left Soissons. Oh yeah, this was where the parade went through. So this is part of that parade march. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a whole bunch of names on that. Those are people from Soissons that died in World War I. Fun fact, World War One had individual battles that had a higher casualty rate than all of World War Two. Fun fact. So anyway, this is me hauling balls trying to get to the first castle. Right, I gotta add some to that probably at the end of the video. So anyway, this wall or this castle, the wall of this castle is shown here. I was going up this super long, twisty, windy road, going higher and higher and higher up to this castle. Got into the castle, finally. Had the hardest time finding a place to park. So I found this street parking, and this was the street that I parked in, inside the wall of the castle. People actually lived here. Like, I parked, I was walking, and then some guy was like walking home with some milk. Just going to his house in this little village, like micro village. Yeah, this little micro village right here is inside the castle walls. So I paid my 5 or 10 euros or whatever it was to go take a tour of this castle, and I had to sprint through this thing. So I was rushing through, trying to take as many photos as I can. This, I believe, was the courtyard, but it was also mostly the castle. So this castle was destroyed in World War One. So at the end of World War One, this was the Germans' equivalent of the Alamo. Except in the Alamo they had cannons, and in World War One they had artillery and bombs. So it got blown to absolute smithereens. Massive kaput. And this is what is left of them. So I did the very best I could to take as many photos as I could of the actual, like, intact bits of the castle. Most of these piles of rocks were like ceiling, old walls, stuff that used to be standing but is not anymore. Clearly, I mean, the rain protection on this castle is not great. And then this was the courtyard. This was the original courtyard. And it spanned everywhere, so I was having a really hard time getting like decent photos, like trying to get it like, oh, this is a really good shot that encapsulates this area. I also didn't know how to do like panoramic, but panoramic would have been way better. I don't even think my iPhone 4 had panoramic shots at the time. Don't remember, or I just never figured out how to use it. So, this was like the main court hall where the kings and queens would hang out. And these are all pillars, these little stump little bits. These are pillars that used to hold up the ceiling where the throne room used to be. This was this is a latrine. So not far from this area, there's a little side passage. I believe it's behind this photo where the photo is being taken, and then to my left of where the photo is taken. But it was basically their bathroom. I went to see like, this is a weird assortment of rocks, and I looked up, it's like, that's a weird tunnel. Oh no, it was a tower. Yeah, this is a tower, not a bathroom. Just kidding. So this was a tower that the steps gave up on existing, so they just stopped. I don't know if you can see if there's actually an archway. That is a path where you could come out. That's one of the other floors where you'd come out of the archway, which is, whole floor, used to be a whole floor, and then walk into this spiral staircase. But if you go to that doorstep, that's just a drop. So this is the top of all of it. The turret or the tower is busted, so this is like just the ground level, and I was able to take a picture down into it. This was going into the basement area. Oh, and this was one of the other areas where they had a bunch of dirt paths with a bunch of photos hanging up. It's like, hey, this place used to look like this. Isn't that nice? And I think they also had ruins in here as well. Oh, so this is the bottom section. So the previous photo that I took was the bottom portion. Oh gosh, I'm getting confused now. So I think, yeah, it had to be up top. So I had to be up top first, and then it went to the basement area. That's what happened. Went down to the basement area. This is the basement. So I'm standing where the previous photo was taken. This was, okay, kind of hard to tell, but they had arrow slits. So basically castles had walls along the edge, and those walls came to a narrow point that were shaped like a wedge, like the opening was a wedge, and that's where archers used to be stationed. So an archer would basically shoot their bow through this narrow little slit but because of the wedge shape, they had like, I think 120 degree range of motion to be able to angle and get like a shot onto their targets. This is one of those arrow slits, but it has mostly collapsed. But that is an exterior wall, so if someone's trying to breach the wall, this particular turret or opening slot would shoot anybody trying to scale that section. This is another one, but higher up. This is along the upper portion of the wall, but obviously it was barred off. I guess some kid fell. I'm assuming. I can't actually back that up. Nothing to prove that point. This is another part of the courtyard area. The previous photo was that little slit, I believe, down below. This is also one of the courtyard areas. Oh, this is the other end. Yeah. Here we go. So this is where the king and queen used to hang out, and those little stumplet bits are where the other photo was taken. And that door was like, yeah, on the left, I went to that area. That's that hallway. The archway, that's the hallway. So I did like a full circle back around to that original spot. This was the back area, and that pile of grass and rocks used to be a building, or at least a big room. More rocks and used to be buildings and rooms of the castle. So this was the edge of the wall where it actually overlooked the town. So during defense point, this is the strategic advantage, was having that. I put my phone through one of those turret holes to get a picture of that tower. I don't know if you can see it or can tell, but that's actually a defensive tower that has collapsed and is starting to slide down the hill. Kind of sad day. This is another one of those defense towers on the inside. And this is another. Oh no, that was the entranceway to get into the inside. This is the actual inside. And these are those wedge slots that I was telling you about. So you could actually, it's also angled downward, so you could shoot down, because it's important to shoot down from a wall. Derp. But anyway, yeah, this is where I was standing earlier to get a photo over the side to look onto the town. This is probably the best view of the whole castle, especially with the village behind it. The red doors on the left, that's the entrance and exit to get into the castle portion. That's basically their museum / gift shop. It's about the size of like a 1-bedroom apartment. It's pretty small. And beyond that is the village where people actually live, and I suppose they work. I don't know. Everything closes at 5. It opens at 2, so hard to tell. Anyway, another view of the town. This is not Soissons. This is one of the outer areas. But yeah, just this super quaint little village. Super neat place. And this is back to the courtyard, heading back to the entrance, and then next castle. Okay, so I was hauling butt trying to get to this next castle because they closed at 5, and it is now like 4 o'clock, and it was an hour away. So I had to do my absolute darndest to make up time. Also, I think they stopped taking new guests at 4:30. So I was trying to, time to beat was 4:30. So I was hauling down these like little French roads, and I was getting my picture taken a lot. Didn't realize it. I'll get into that in a second. So anyway, so this was a castle. I was on approach, and I saw that off the distance, so I zoomed my phone in all the way. My little iPhone 4 did the best it could do, and took a picture of this on approach. I was weaving through all these trees, twisty turn, windy roads, and then I got to the spot. It's like, finally clearing the trees. I can get a good shot of this. I had to go real slow to not get the telephone to like be in the middle of the castle. Meanwhile, it's like kind of rainy, like not rainy, just drizzly. So super dangerous. Definitely should have done this. I don't know if it's, I wouldn't say worth it, but I don't know if it's worth it. It's not that great of a photo, but I got it. So this is actually up close. Also, this is my wallpaper on my cell phone. So this was the best shot I could do to get the most of the castle up close. This place is super huge, and apparently everybody that I talked to was like, yeah, it is not the real castle. It was renovated in, what'd they say? It was renovated in the 1600s, so it is not genuine. It's like Disney Castle. Literally what they said. It's like Disney Castle. And it's like, this castle's renovation is older than my country. So, in my mind, this is a legitimate castle still. But they were complaining that there's like all this Renaissance era type furniture in it, and it's too modern. It's like the Renaissance era was a while before my country was born. by like 50 years, 100 years ish. But anyway, just funny talking to some like castle purists that were around, but they're like, yeah, it's neat. It is a neat castle. But anyway, I tried really hard to try to get some scale, but also some cool photos. A lot of the walls had these like, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like this little pocket with this little knight statue guy engraved in the side of it. Super neat. And a bunch of these walls had that kind of stuff, especially not the turrets, the towers, especially a lot of the towers. The glass was installed recently, so it's not genuine 10th century castle architecture since it was re-renovated. But anyway, they put the glass in there. That's not an original piece. And then I guess the rooms are blue. Fun fact, I got there like 4:35 and they wouldn't let me in. And I was super upset about it. So I had to like interview people as they were coming out and asking them. So that's where I got all this information from. But anyway, this is the best I could do. This is the front entrance. Also, I saw a trebuchet. I thought that was super exciting. Trebuchet is one of my favorite pieces of military artillery. Yeah, one of my favorite artillery pieces, trebuchet. Neat stuff. Anyway, they had one. So I asked some random lady that was taking pictures, like, hey, you probably take decent pictures. Can you get a picture of me in front of this cool castle? And that's one of the few photos of me of this entire trip. And there I am. Just to the left, there's a portcullis. That's the museum entrance. And that's the guy that was like, I'm sorry, I cannot let you in. It is 4:30, almost 5 o'clock. We do not let anybody in. It's like, sacre bleu. So anyway, that's that picture. I kind of dig it, especially with the sun. Oh yeah, it is getting dark. Already, like 5 o'clock. It's starting to get dark. This is me leaving. So the castle has a perimeter that you can walk around for free. So I was checking that out. So I did the whole perimeter, every little alleyway that I could. And it was just a super cool shot. So it did like this nature trail type thing. So I thought. It actually wasn't. So this is what I saw. No nature trail, just a wall. And it reminded me of Labyrinth. Oh, that's why I took this photo. This picture reminded me of Labyrinth near the beginning of the movie. If you've ever seen it, you know what I'm talking about, where Jennifer Connelly is like sprinting down, and then there's like this algae and lichen and fungus and stuff growing on the walls. It's like, this is such a Labyrinth still shot, so I had to take a picture of it. But yeah, this is just a road. This is a road behind the castle where cars were just going by. I didn't see any, but I assume cars are on roads, so I feel like that was a safe guess. But anyway. This is me leaving. That doorway went up to a different section of the castle. Oh, I just came out of there. Yeah, that was a stairway going down. So I walked the perimeter, and I was coming down the hill from the castle, popped out of that door, and thought I'd get a cool shot. There's a guy just to the left. There's a car. You can kind of barely see it. I tried to clip him out of the shot, but there he is. He still got in the photo. And then these were the streets, like right outside the castle. So I basically took that previous shot and then rotated like 70 degrees and took this photo. The parking here kind of sucked. I remember it was really hard to find a spot. Also, I'm pretty sure I was like starving at this point. But I had to leave here to go to, not Soissons, I had to go to wine country. It's where they make champagne, which is actually Champagne, France. Fun fact. One of my big bucket list items was to drink champagne in Champagne, France. It was actually one of my first ever bucket list items. I made that decision when I was in my sophomore year of high school, junior year of high school. I was taking French class, and that's when I learned champagne is brewed, distilled, created. It's created. Champagne is created in Champagne, France. That's when I decided I have to do that before I die. So I went to, and I was stalling just trying to remember the name of the city. It's like this region of France. It's where everybody goes for a wine country to drink. Oh my gosh, it's driving me up the wall. What is the name of this place? Oh, starts with an S. Seville. No. It's probably like an M or something. I don't know. Anyway, so I went to this famously wine-centric portion. Riem! I went to Riem. Definitely does not start with an S. R-I-E-M. So I went to Riem. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So I went to Riem to go get some champagne and took some more photos of the castle before I left. So that's another shot up the wall. Actually, when I was a kid, I think I built a Lego castle that was very reminiscent, very comparable to this particular castle's layout by coincidence. So anyway, got to Riem, found a winery that made champagne, and they've been around for like hundreds of years. And this was their display of all the different bottles of champagne that they had. I wanted to do a champagne tasting, but I couldn't because I was too late. Because everything in France closes super early, so I couldn't do any of the things I wanted to do. But here I was. I was always like just too late. Everywhere I wanted to go, I was just too late. So anyway, I sweet talked the ladies like, hey, this is a massive bucket list item of mine. I've been wanting to do this. Like, it's legitimately top 10 ever bucket list items is to do this. Please let me do some kind of like my own little private solo wine tasting. I don't care. Because she was actually entertaining a whole other group. So anyway, I got to do the champagne testing there. It was okay. Like, it wasn't great. It was fine. Like, it was good. There's some that I had that were better than others. But she was super nice and actually let me have some free tastings of other ones. And I tried to pay her and she absolutely flat out refused. And I was so touched by that. And the ones that she let me taste for free were super good. The ones in my original flight were like not great. I got the lowest grade. I got the cheapest one. And the cheapest one was still like 35 euros or something. This was not a cheap champagne tasting. So anyway, you got the cheapest deal, and their wines, they were fine, or the champagnes were fine. It was good, but the top tier ones were like, these are really good. And she let me have those like super expensive bottles for free, and I was deeply appreciative. So if you go there, definitely try it, and try the higher end bottles. It's worth the money. If you're gonna spend the money, the experience is all around better. And this is me doing that thing that I wanted to do that I told you about and already gave a long-winded explanation of. And then I went back to Riem into the actual city portion, trying to find a place to eat. And I found this place that was basically an all-you-can-eat fondue. Hey, fondue is French, isn't it? Fondue is a French thing. Yeah. So I got to have like a legitimate French meal as my last meal in France. And it gave me horrible diarrhea. I had to poop so bad. Like, I was clenching the whole way to my Airbnb, which is basically like the outskirts of Paris. I found out later I was in what's called a no-go zone. Genuinely fear for my safety. But returned my rental car, and in the original photo, let me see if I can pull it up. Original photo. France, Germany. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Where's it at? Where is my OD meter? Here it is. Okay. So when I started this trip, my car had 567 kilometers on it, which I think shooting from the hip is around about like 280 miles, something like that. The end of the trip, it was not that. So I put like, what's that? 2,400 kilometers. So like, what's that? 2,400. So like 1,600 miles. So I drove like 1,600 miles in I think 5 days, like 4 to 6 days. I don't remember how long the trip was. If y'all watched the last stream and then watched this stream and put the timestamps together, like made a mental note of like, oh, that's when he slept. I should do that because I did the trip, but I'm drawing a blank at the moment. I think it was 4 days. Anyway, so that was the end of the trip. But yeah, I was in this no-go zone, and the Charles de Gaulle, I think was the name, the section of Paris. That was like the section of town. I go in, I didn't want to get a picture of it, but if you've ever been in like downtown Chicago or like Detroit, in the really super sketchy parts, it was like that, but worse. At one point, I saw a squad of police officers walking down the sidewalk together. I think there was like 7 police officers. So the fact that the police travel in packs was red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 was there was trash everywhere. Like there's a dumpster, and next to the dumpster is a pile of trash. Next to the empty dumpster. So, and it's like littered all around the street too. Oh yeah, if you missed the last video, I mentioned that addresses in Europe are not based upon distance. It's based upon when the building was built. So if you're the first building built on this street, your address is 1 Cordon Bleu or whatever the name of your street is. If you're the second house built, it could be like 5 miles down the street. You're Cordon Bleu number, or 2 Cordon Bleu. If you're right next to the first house, but it's the third house built, you're Cordon Bleu 3. If you're on the other side of the street, Cordon Bleu 4. Like there is no rhyme or reason at all to the layout of their streets or the layout of their buildings. So I'm trying to find the address to my next Airbnb. Oh my gosh, that was super sketchy. So anyway, I was looking around for this Airbnb. He's not answering. And there's like group people outside screaming, getting borderline violent with each other. And I'm standing there like, I have no protection. Like, I deeply wish I had a gun on myself or a gun on my person so I could do something if I am assaulted, because I'm totally helpless. It's one of the extremely few times in my life that I was in genuine concern for my safety. I thought that there was a good chance I could be like captured and organs harvested. Like a genuine concern, not like, oh, this could happen. I'm starting to, no, like I am in active danger. I am in danger right now. So anyway, the guy finally shows up, lets me into his apartment building. It's like something out of an 80s horror movie. The carpet was soaked from water damage. The wallpaper was torn. The lights were flickering because they weren't working properly. It was like the overhead fluorescent light bulbs that of the whole stretch of hallway, only 30% of them worked, and the ones that worked were flickering. It was absolutely terrifying. And the guy was super nice guy. Like, oh yeah, come on in. So he lets me in. I requested a 1-bedroom. It was not a 1-bedroom. It was a like 300 square foot studio. It was 1 room. He had a couch that was basically, you know, the pictures earlier of like all the castles with the rubble? It was basically those rocks with a tight leather wrap around it. That's what I slept. And the whole time I was laying there, oh yeah, I had to blow up his bathroom because my butthole was clenched like super tight, trying to fight the diarrhea the whole way from Riem to Paris. So I get there and like disrespect his toilet so epically. But anyway, so got all situated, got all my stuff ready for my flight the next morning. And I laid on this cobblestone wrapped in leather, and I laid there and looked over at the guy and was like, is he gonna murder me in my sleep and sell my kidneys online? And I just laid there until my alarm went off at 6 a.m. and did not sleep at all. So 0 sleep. Got up, left for my flight, got super lost on the way to the airport, started panicking, super hardcore because, you know, it's a morning flight and I still have to get through the worst airport security on the planet, which is the Charles de Gaulle airport. That's another rant for another video. But anyway, absolutely epically horrible. Anyway, I just realized I think I'm going late. Oh, this is an hour and a half. So to wrap things up, yeah, so I got back to Chicago. I bought a bus ticket for Greyhound bus. They did not tell me where it was at, so I had to guess. Rented a taxi. Got charged like, I think $60 to drive around Chicago to try to find this Greyhound bus, which had left, and couldn't find where to go. So I started panicking. I'm exhausted. I've been flying, hadn't slept. I've been flying like literally all day. I had been up since I went to bed in Soissons on the lumpy bed the night before, and I'm still awake like 36 hours later. and pushing hard, trying to get my bearings to figure out how I'm going to get myself back to Indianapolis. And it was an absolute garbage fest. Like, I was stranded in Chicago until I think it was 1 in the morning. A friend of mine found a ticket online for this trip, or for this bus. It was like super cheap. It was like, I think it was like $20. And this bus took me from Chicago to downtown Indianapolis, like 20 or $30. So David Atwell, thank you so much for finding that. I would have been epically screwed in Chicago. Oh yeah, so I had to wait around from like 9 p.m. until midnight, because that's when, not 1 a.m., is midnight is when the bus left. I arrived at 1 a.m. So anyway, yeah, I was trying to find food because I had been starving since I depleted my body of everything else the night before. And just trying to find food, just walking around, walked into this one place that's like my little map GPS is like, oh yeah, there's food here. So I went in, and the entrance was like curtained off, like red curtains, no windows. There was a red velvet rope to go into the entrance, and you had to go, I think, up a staircase. And I walked in, and there's this lady sitting there behind a checkout, or behind a check-in desk or whatever, and there's a very large man standing in front of the velvet rope. And I was like, yeah, you guys have food? And they looked at me like, boy, you are not in the right location. Like, you clearly do not belong here. So anyway, it's like, oh yeah, I was looking for some place to eat, and like, yeah, this is, what is that? What do they call it? I think it's like, this is a leisurely club. It's like, oh, they have food here? It's like, no. My guy, this is a strip club. You're at a strip club. Go to BW3's down the street. And I was like horribly embarrassed. It's the only time in my life I've ever been in a strip club. And I was like mortified. Like, oh my gosh. So I like left and jaywalked right in front of a police officer on my way to this BW3. And he was like giving me some hard stank side eye. But then I chilled out at this BW3 for like 3 hours. Then I finally got back. So yeah, so moral of the story is trip was super fun. But there are speed cameras everywhere in France. Oh, big part of the trip. So I was driving at night, originally in Normandy, and I was trying to figure out my sat nav, and I got this blinding flash of light next to my car. I thought I drove past an alleyway and a car hit the brights or something, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was driving like, well, that was weird. I got a little shook up by it. So I was driving, and then ways down the road, a couple miles, several miles probably, I got another blinding flash in the middle of a field. It's like, okay, something's up. Something's going on here. I don't know what's happening. And then I got hit, I think, 5 more times. And it's like, okay, there's a pattern here. What is going on? Like, what are these blinding flashing lights? So finally I think it was in Soissons, and I Googled it, like, what are the blinding flashes of light in France on the road? Those are speed cams. I was doing 5 kilometers over the speed limit. And I thought that, like 5 over, that's the norm. In America, we go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. It's fine. So apparently I got nailed like 7 or 8 times at this point by all these different traffic cams. Not realizing what was happening. When I learned that the next day, I was going about the rest of the trip intentionally keeping my speed limit under that 5 mile an hour mark, or 5 kilometer an hour mark. I got nailed by another speed cam going 1 kilometer over the speed limit. That's 0.6 miles an hour. I was going 0.6 miles an hour faster than the speed limit, and they ticketed me for it. So at that point, I was like furious, and then I was, I had to fly to get to these castles. Like, I know I'm getting nailed by all these speed cams. I don't even care anymore. And I was like, screw it. If this be treason, best make the most of it. So anyway, I probably got nailed with like 13, 14, maybe 15 speeding tickets. I don't even know. At the point, I just lost, or by the end of the trip, just lost the any sense of caring. Like, it just gave up. It's like, whatever. I don't care anymore. Tired of trying to play by your rules. And then the other thing was, like, I would follow these locals that were flying down these country roads. So I just like keep pace with them, and then they'd slow down once they got into town, and then like drive off. And I came behind him, and I got nailed by a speed cam, like following this local. Like he knew exactly where it was and exactly how much to slow down right before the speed cam, and I got hit by it. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. So anyway, it was like several months later, I think like 4 or 5 months later, I got a ticket in the mail, and the ticket was, if you pay by X amount, which was less than a month, you pay this amount. If it's 2 months late, you pay this much higher amount. If it's 3 months late, you pay this like super duper high amount. And I didn't receive this letter in the mail until like 4 months after the fact. And then the rental car company charged my bank account directly. So they like pulled these traffic tickets directly out of my personal banking account. I don't know how they could do that legally, but they did, and it pissed me off no end. So I think it was like a year later, maybe even less than a year later, the French people had the, I don't remember if anybody remembers this, but they had the yellow vest riots, where all the, I can't say all, but like a very large portion of the French population were striking and protesting against all these different traffic laws. And the one thing I never heard them mention was the speed cams, the traffic cams. And I was so pissed. I couldn't believe it. It's like, the traffic cams, you have to mention how awful and egregious these traffic cams are. About a month ago, actually no, it wasn't even a month, this is a couple weeks ago. So a couple weeks ago, I was watching the Grand Tour, pretty sure it's Grand Tour? Top Gear, but the Amazon version with Jeremy Clarkson, James May, Richard Hammond. And their most recent episode was in France. And actually, I guess I'm done with this now. I can switch back over. So their most recent episode was in France, and they were talking about the Yellow Vest riots that happened a year or two prior. And one of the portions of their protest was they went around France and just started smashing up, I think like 80% of the speed cameras or something like that. That was per Top Gear, or per Grand Tour. I don't actually know what the data is on it for realsies, but I legitimately would just like, yes, destroy all those speed cams, bring them down with the man. But anyway, this went on a lot longer than I realized. I thought I was actually pushing the 30-minute mark, but I'm pushing an hour and a half. So looks like there's still a couple people in the chat. If you showed up, I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I usually want to keep these a little tidier at about an hour. So definitely went a little bit longer wrapping up the rest of this trip. Next, I think, so this coming Thursday is going to be the next stream. And I'm debating if I want to do Iceland or if I want to do Greece. Might be leaning more towards Greece than Iceland. I think I might push Iceland off to a week later. Actually, I might have my first guest, potentially, if they're up for it. I went to Iceland with a very dear friend of mine, and he will be visiting from Florida in a week or two. So if he's up for it, I might have my first podcast. Podcast? This is not really a podcast, it's a live stream. Anyway, might have my first guest on the channel, if he's down for it. And we'll talk about Iceland together. And that could be fun. So anyway, so the next stream is going to be Thursday at 4 o'clock. I'm going to be doing every Monday at 6, ideally with a guest. And then every Thursday at 4, those will probably be solo stream. Tell me what you guys think. If you guys like the 4 o'clock stream better, or if the 6 o'clock stream is better, let me know. That would be cool to get that kind of input. I'm just shooting from the hip with the 4 o'clock versus 6. I'm trying to figure out what would be better for people in terms of like, oh, I'm at work for that 1 hour from 4 to 5, and it's kind of nice to like end of the day, I can just kind of watch a live stream for a little bit. Or is it better to do the 6 o'clock, like after you've gotten off work, you get home and you're kind of settled in? Is a 6 o'clock time slot better? Or would it be best to not do that because that's when you're doing dinner, settling down? Still trying to figure all this out. So please leave a comment. Let me know what you guys like time schedule wise. If you even made it this far in the stream, I might have to make another note of it later. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm open to suggestions. Please give me your suggestions. I want to hear it. Also, let me know if you want me to go over Greece next or Iceland. After those trips are done, that'll conclude my like warm-up phase that I'm trying to do. Trying to get more comfortable on camera. to get into the real purpose of what the channel is going to be and make a huge announcement. Not clickbaity, like actually really big announcement. So anyway, hope to see you then. Thanks for showing up, and thanks for staying to the end. Take care.